Narendra Modi, From Vadnagar to Prime Minister, a motivational biography about discipline, service, and the long road from a small town to national leadership. Before we begin, one important note. This is not campaign content. It is not asking you to support a party, agree with every decision, or look at public life without criticism. Every major leader is debated. Every long career has supporters, critics, successes, failures, complexity, and consequence. This story looks at Narendra Modi as a life journey, and asks a simple question. What can a person learn from discipline, organization, resilience, and service? The story begins far away from grand offices, security convoys, bright lights, and world stages. It begins in Vadnagar, a small town in northern Gujarat. Narendra Damodar Modi was born on the 17th of September, 1950, only a few years after India became independent. The country itself was young. Its democracy was young. Its institutions were still being built. Families across India were learning how to live with hope after decades of struggle, partition, poverty, and reconstruction. Modi was born into a family of modest means. His father, Damodar Modi, ran a tea stall. His mother, Hiriba Modi, worked hard to hold the household together. The family lived simply. There was not much space, not much money, and not much room for comfort. But there was responsibility. There was routine. There was the daily reality of doing what had to be done. For a child, poverty can become many things. It can become anger. It can become fear. It can become shame. But it can also become training. In Vadnagar, the young Narendra learned that life does not wait until conditions are perfect. If the house is small, you still study. If the day begins early, you still show up. If the family needs help, you help. If the world does not hand you a path, you learn to walk on rough ground. That is the first lesson of this story. Great journeys rarely begin with great resources. They begin with repeated effort under ordinary pressure. The tea stall has become one of the most repeated images in the story of Narendra Modi. It is easy to turn that image into a symbol and move on. But pause with it for a moment. Think about what a tea stall teaches a child. It teaches speed. People do not wait forever. It teaches observation. A stall near a station brings workers, travelers, soldiers, students, merchants, and strangers. You hear different accents. You see different moods. You learn that every person carries a private burden. It teaches humility. Serving tea is simple work, but simple work done every day can shape a person. You learn that dignity does not come from the size of a job. It comes from the seriousness with which you do the job in front of you. It teaches memory. A railway station is never still. People arrive and leave. Trains pass. News travels. A child standing there may begin to understand that a country is not an abstraction. A country is faces moving through heat, dust, hope, worry, and ambition. The young Modi also developed a curiosity for reading and debate. School friends later remembered him as a student drawn to books and discussion. This matters because ambition without learning can become noise. Energy without direction can scatter. Reading gives a mind somewhere to go. Debate teaches a mind to meet resistance. He was not born into the elite track. He did not begin inside inherited power. His early life was not a polished leadership program. It was a rough classroom. And in that classroom, two habits began to form. The first was self-discipline. The second was the desire to serve something larger than personal comfort. Stories from his childhood describe a boy who wanted to be useful during moments of need. Accounts from his official biography described him helping at the family tea stall, balancing studies with family responsibility, and developing an early pull toward public service. Whether one reads these stories as political biography or as personal memory, the lesson remains useful. A person's future is often built by the habits no one applauds at the time. No one applauds a child for waking up early. No one applauds a student for reading one more page. No one applauds a young person for helping the family instead of complaining. But life records everything. It records whether you avoid responsibility or accept it. It records whether you wait for permission or begin with what you have. It records whether pressure makes you smaller or more serious. Vadnagar was also a place with history. It was not only a small town. It carried older memories of learning, travel, faith, and trade. Growing up in such a place can produce a strange combination: a narrow lane outside your home, and a large imagination inside your mind. For Modi, one major influence was Swami Vivekananda. Vivekananda's life and writings presented a vision of discipline, spiritual confidence, service, and national awakening. For a young person searching for purpose, that kind of influence can be powerful. It tells you that inner strength is not separate from public duty. It tells you that service is not weakness. It tells you that self-mastery is the beginning of useful action. In many motivational stories, people talk about success as if it is only about rising higher. But in the story of Modi, the more important theme is not height. It is direction. What is your life pointed toward? Comfort, recognition, security, power, or service? When he was still young, Modi left home and traveled across India. According to his official life story, he left at the age of 17 and spent about 2 years traveling through different regions and cultures before returning with a clearer sense of purpose. Some parts of any early life are remembered differently by different people, but the broad image is clear enough. A young man steps away from the predictable path and goes looking for meaning. Travel can be education without a classroom. It strips away the illusion that your town is the whole world. It shows you how differently people live. It teaches patience, discomfort, listening, and adaptation. If you travel with ego, you collect photographs. If you travel with humility, you collect perspective. The young Modi returned from this period with a stronger sense that his life would not be private in the ordinary way. He moved toward organization, service, and public work. He went to Ahmedabad and became associated with the Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh, commonly called the RSS. The RSS is an organization that has shaped his ideological and organizational life, and it is also debated in Indian public life. For this biography, the central point is practical. Modi entered a world that demanded routine, discipline, field work, communication, and the ability to organize people. This is where the story shifts from personal hardship to structured training. Some people imagine leadership as speaking from a stage, but much of leadership is invisible administration. Who arrives first? Who keeps records? Who remembers names? Who travels to small places where cameras do not follow? Who listens to local workers? Who follows up? Who converts energy into a system? In organizational life, charisma is useful, but consistency is more important. A person who can create structure around purpose becomes valuable. A person who can remain calm inside complexity becomes useful. A person who can handle unglamorous work without losing direction begins to earn trust. In the 1970s, India passed through the emergency, a period when civil liberties were curtailed and political opposition faced suppression. Modi's official life story describes him as participating in the movement to restore democracy during those years. Whatever one's politics, the emergency is an important reminder. Democracy is not only voting, it is also the culture of disagreement, the protection of institutions, and the courage to continue when public space becomes difficult. For a young organizer, such a period teaches another lesson. Public life is not a straight road. It contains risk. It contains pressure. It contains moments when the easiest option is silence, and the harder option is persistence. In the 1980s, Modi moved deeper into organizational responsibilities. He became known for planning, coordination, and field-level political work. In 1987, he began work as General Secretary of the BJP in Gujarat. Later, he held national responsibilities within the party, including work in states such as Haryana and Himachal Pradesh. This long organizational phase is essential to understand the later public figure. Before he became a chief minister, Before he became Prime Minister, before he stood on global platforms, Modi spent years building networks, managing campaigns, learning districts, studying voters, and working with people at many levels of political life. Many people want the visible moment. Fewer people accept the invisible apprenticeship. But the invisible apprenticeship is where the visible moment becomes possible. The world may discover you in one election, one speech, one appointment, one promotion, one public success. But by the time the world discovers you, your habits have already been forming for years. This is true in politics. It is true in business. It is true in art, study, sport, and family life. The breakthrough is often sudden to the audience, but not sudden to the person who has been preparing in private. For Modi, the major turning point came in 2001. Gujarat was facing severe challenges. The state had suffered a devastating earthquake in Kutch that year. There had been other pressures in the preceding years, including natural disasters and political instability. In October 2001, Modi became Chief Minister of Gujarat. It was his first major executive role in government. That matters. There is a difference between organizing and governing. Organization is about mobilizing people around goals. Governance is about systems, budgets, law, trade-offs, administration, crisis, delivery, and accountability. In organization, you can demand effort. In government, people demand results. Taking office in a difficult moment can define a leader quickly. You do not get years to look ready. The crisis asks immediately, can you learn? Can you decide? Can you delegate? Can you handle criticism? Can you build a working rhythm before the pressure breaks the system? Modi's years as Chief Minister of Gujarat, from 2001 to 2014, became the foundation of his national image. Supporters point to economic growth, infrastructure, investment, electricity reforms, industrial development, and administrative focus. Critics point to serious controversies, especially around the 2002 Gujarat violence and questions of responsibility, justice, and social trust. A serious biography should not pretend public life is simple. Leadership at scale is always judged by outcomes, by wounds, by supporters, by opponents, by history, and by those who live under its decisions. For this motivational account, the lesson is not that every decision is beyond criticism. The lesson is that leadership under pressure requires the ability to keep working while being judged from every side. If you are waiting for a life without criticism, you will never do important work. If you are waiting for perfect agreement, you will never lead. But criticism also has a purpose. It prevents power from becoming careless. It reminds leaders that people are not numbers. It reminds citizens that democracy needs memory, debate, and moral seriousness. The Gujarat period also shows a central feature of Modi's style: the use of focused campaigns, slogans, targets, and public messaging to turn governance into a visible mission. Whether the topic was infrastructure, investment, or development, the communication style was clear, repetitive, and disciplined. This is not accidental. In public life, attention is a scarce resource. A message that changes every week disappears. A message repeated with discipline becomes a frame through which people interpret action. For anyone building a career or a project, there is a useful lesson here. Do not only work hard. Learn to define the work clearly. Learn to say what you are building. Learn to make effort visible without making it empty. Clarity multiplies effort. In 2014, Modi moved from state leadership to national leadership. He contested the general election and became Prime Minister of India on the 26th of May, 2014. For the first time, the boy from Vadnagar, who had once helped at a tea stall near a railway station, stood at the center of the world's largest democracy. It is a dramatic image. But again, do not miss the less dramatic truth. The journey took decades. From childhood struggle to youth travel. From youth travel to organizational training. From organizational training to state leadership. From state leadership to national leadership, there was no single magic moment. There was accumulation. That is how most real growth happens. You do not become capable all at once. You become capable by collecting hard lessons and refusing to waste them. As Prime Minister, Modi became known for a highly active style of communication and governance. Major national campaigns associated with his terms include Swachh Bharat, Digital India, Make in India, financial inclusion efforts, infrastructure pushes, welfare delivery systems, and international outreach. People debate the impact, implementation, and politics of these programs. But as a motivational study, one thing is hard to ignore. Modi understood the power of turning policy into mass participation. Swachh Bharat was not presented only as a sanitation program. It was presented as a national habit change. Digital India was not presented only as technology policy. It was presented as a new relationship between citizens, services, identity, and opportunity. International Yoga Day was not presented only as cultural symbolism. It was presented as a global invitation. Again, the lesson is not that every campaign is perfect. The lesson is that movements require language people can remember. If your mission cannot be spoken clearly, it will struggle to spread. This applies to a YouTube channel, a startup, a family goal, a fitness journey, a school, a city, a charity, or a personal transformation. People do not rally around confusion. They rally around direction. One of the most interesting aspects of Modi's public image is discipline. The early mornings, the long days, the controlled presentation, the repetition of routines, the careful use of clothing and symbols, the direct communication through speeches and media, the intense travel schedule, the habit of linking personal story with national ambition. In motivational terms, discipline is often misunderstood. People think discipline means punishment, but discipline is really a form of memory. It is remembering what you said you wanted when comfort tries to distract you. It is remembering the larger goal when the mood of the day changes. It is remembering that a life is not built by occasional intensity. It is built by repeated alignment. Modi's journey shows the advantage of long-term alignment. His childhood story, organizational training, political messaging, and national leadership all return to a few repeated themes: service, discipline, national pride, development, and resilience. Whether one agrees with his politics or not, the consistency of the themes is part of the power of the story. Ask yourself, what themes repeat in your life? If someone watched your daily actions for a month, what would they conclude you value? Would they see urgency? Would they see learning? Would they see service? Would they see courage? Would they see distraction? Would they see resentment? Your biography is not only written by major events, it is written by repetition. For India, Modi's rise also reflects the democratic possibility of social mobility. A person from a modest background can rise to the highest elected executive office. This does not mean the path is easy. It does not mean every person has equal opportunity. It does not erase structural inequality. But it does mean that democracy carries a radical promise. No background has the final right to define your horizon. This promise is powerful because it speaks to millions of people who begin with little. The child in a small house, the student without private coaching, the worker supporting a family, the immigrant trying to build again, the person underestimated because of accent, caste, class, language, region, or education. The promise is not that life will be fair. The promise is that your response still matters. Modi's story is often told as a rise from poverty to power, but a more useful way to tell it is as a rise from responsibility to responsibility. At the tea stall, the responsibility was immediate. Help the family, serve customers, study, grow. As a young traveler, the responsibility was internal. Find direction, test the self, understand the country. As an organizer, the responsibility was structural. Build networks, coordinate work, maintain discipline. As chief minister, the responsibility was administrative. Govern a state, manage crises, deliver results, face criticism. As Prime Minister, the responsibility became national. Represent India, manage institutions, speak to a vast and diverse population, and operate in a world where every decision carries consequences. Responsibility did not disappear as he rose. It expanded. That is another lesson. Ambition is often sold as freedom from burden. Real ambition is the willingness to carry a larger burden without losing clarity. If you want a bigger life, you are asking for bigger responsibility. If you want influence, you are asking for scrutiny. If you want leadership, you are asking for problems that cannot be solved by complaining. The motivational value of Modi's story is not only that he became Prime Minister, it is that the qualities needed at the top were rehearsed at the bottom. Early mornings, service, communication, stamina, reading, observation, and discipline. Nothing is wasted if you are paying attention. A small job can teach you people. A hard childhood can teach you endurance. A period of loneliness can teach you self-reliance. A failed opportunity can teach you direction. A public criticism can teach you emotional control. A long apprenticeship can teach you systems. The mistake is thinking your current stage is beneath you. Your current stage is training you. The railway platform, the small room, the dusty road, the crowded meeting, the late night desk, the difficult election, the administrative file, the speech draft, the criticism in the newspaper, the waiting room, the unanswered question, the journey that looks too slow. These are not interruptions to the story. They are the story. One feature that stands out in Modi's public career is communication. He learned to speak in images ordinary people could understand. The tea seller, the mother's blessing, the call to cleanliness, the dream of a developed India, the pride of heritage, the dignity of labor. Political communication can be used wisely or poorly. It can simplify too much. It can inspire. It can polarize. It can mobilize. It can heal. It can divide. But from a craft perspective, it teaches this. People remember stories before they remember statistics. If you want your work to matter, learn to tell the truth of it in human terms. A company is not only revenue. It is people solving a problem. A school is not only marks. It is confidence being built. A family is not only routine. It is love becoming dependable. A country is not only borders and data. It is human beings trying to build a common future. Modi's storytelling has always connected the personal and the national. He often frames his own rise not as a private achievement, but as evidence of India's democratic energy. That frame is powerful because it turns biography into symbol. But symbols carry responsibility. When a leader becomes a symbol, people project hope and fear onto him. Some see possibility. Some see danger. Some see pride. Some see exclusion. Some see efficiency. Some see centralization. This is why mature citizenship matters. A democratic society should be able to learn from a leader's discipline without surrendering its right to question that leader's power. Motivation should not make us blind. It should make us stronger. Strong enough to work. Strong enough to think. Strong enough to admire effort without abandoning judgment. Strong enough to disagree without becoming lazy or hateful. There is also a personal discipline lesson in Modi's relationship with time. Leaders at his level live under calendars that would exhaust most people. Travel, speeches, meetings, briefings, ceremonies, decisions, crises, and constant public visibility. To survive that, a person needs more than ambition. He needs systems for energy, attention, and recovery. Most of us do not run countries, but we all run something. We run our health. We run our finances. We run our relationships. We run our learning. We run our promises. If those systems are weak, life becomes noise. The question is not whether you are busy. Many people are busy. The question is whether your busyness is organized around meaning. You can be busy and go nowhere. You can be tired and still be avoiding the real work. Discipline means choosing the work that compounds. Reading compounds. Health compounds. Relationships compound. Reputation compounds. Skill compounds. Service compounds. Modi's life, viewed as a motivational arc, is the story of compounding effort across decades. Not every chapter was glamorous. Not every chapter was easy. Not every chapter is beyond debate. But the arc shows the force of accumulated preparation. There is a moment in every ambitious life when the world asks for proof. Not promise. Proof. Proof that you can do the job under pressure. Proof that you can stay steady when people doubt you. Proof that you can learn quickly. Proof that you can handle scale. Proof that you can carry criticism without becoming paralyzed. The time to prepare for that moment is before it arrives. You prepare when nobody is watching. You prepare in the boring routines. You prepare in the small responsibilities. You prepare when the reward is not obvious. You prepare by becoming reliable. The young person who serves tea carefully is practicing attention. The student who reads after a long day is practicing hunger for knowledge. The organizer who maintains a list of workers is practicing systems. The public servant who studies a file late at night is practicing seriousness. The leader who repeats a message until people understand it is practicing clarity. The citizen who questions power without hatred is practicing democracy. That last point matters, because a motivational biography should not only inspire personal ambition, it should inspire public maturity. India is vast, diverse, ancient, young, noisy, brilliant, unequal, spiritual, technological, impatient, and alive. To lead such a country is difficult. To participate in such a democracy is also difficult. Citizens must hold two ideas at once: pride and accountability. Pride without accountability becomes arrogance. Accountability without pride becomes cynicism. A healthy democracy needs both. Modi's life story can motivate us not because it removes complexity, but because it places a human journey inside that complexity. A boy from Vadnagar grows into an organizer. An organizer becomes a chief minister. A chief minister becomes prime minister. The journey is admired by millions and questioned by many. It continues to shape India's politics, institutions, and imagination. The motivational question is not, how do I become Narendra Modi? That is the wrong question. The better question is, what responsibility in my life am I avoiding because it looks too small, too difficult, or too invisible? What if that responsibility is training? What if the humble beginning is not a disadvantage, but a school? What if the boring routine is not a delay, but a foundation? What if the criticism is not the end, but a test of seriousness? What if service is not something you do after success, but the path that gives success meaning? In the story of Narendra Modi, the tea stall and the Prime Minister's office are separated by decades, elections, organizations, speeches, conflicts, responsibilities, and history. But they are connected by a line of effort. That line is discipline. Discipline does not guarantee power. It does not guarantee fame. It does not guarantee agreement. But it gives a person a way to keep moving when life becomes heavy. And life will become heavy. There will be moments when your beginning feels too small. There will be moments when people underestimate you. There will be moments when your work is invisible. There will be moments when the responsibility arrives before you feel ready. There will be moments when criticism is loud and encouragement is quiet. There will be moments when you must decide whether your life is aimed at comfort or contribution. In those moments, remember the deeper lesson. Begin where you are. Use what you have. Learn from every room. Respect every task. Build systems around your purpose. Speak clearly. Serve before you are celebrated. Let pressure make you disciplined, not bitter. Let ambition become responsibility, not ego. Let your story be bigger than your circumstances. The road from Vadnagar to Delhi is not only a political road. It is a reminder that a life can travel farther than its first address. It is a reminder that humble beginnings are not empty beginnings. They are filled with lessons. They teach the value of work. They teach the sound of ordinary people. They teach the cost of hope. They teach the strength of service. They teach that the future does not arrive ready-made. It is built, morning by morning, task by task, decision by decision. And sometimes, after decades of preparation, the child who once served tea at a railway station stands before a nation and carries a responsibility larger than anything he could have imagined. That is the power of a life in motion. That is the power of discipline joined to purpose. And that is the lesson this story leaves behind. Do not despise the small beginning. Do not waste the difficult season. Do not wait for perfect conditions. Build the person who can carry the opportunity when it comes. Because history is not only shaped by those born near power, sometimes it is shaped by those who learn, very early, to stand at a small counter, serve the people in front of them, listen to the country passing by, and keep going.